The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was her. Not the ceiling, not the rain on the window, not the big dark room I knew I had no right to be in. Just Elena Sterling, standing at the side of the bed, hands on her hips, staring at me like I was a broken pipe in her hallway. "Boone," she said, slow and sharp, "why are you in my bed?" For a second, my sleepy brain tried to catch up. My phone was still in my hand. Flashlight app open from when I had checked the roof at 3 in the morning. The storm was still going outside. Rain beating against the glass so hard the old oak tree in the yard looked like it was fighting for its life. I pushed myself up on one elbow. The sheets were soft, way too soft for a guy who owned more work boots than good shirts. "Because you told me not to drive home in the storm," I said. Her eyes flicked to the window, to the water running down the glass, to the way the wind shook the branches. She took a breath like she wanted to argue, but she knew I was right. "I told you to use the guest room," she said. "The ceiling in the guest room started leaking." I answered, "You said you would rather have me in a dry bed than listening to water hit a bucket all night." Her jaw tightened. She did not look away, though. That was one thing about Elena. She always looked right at the problem. At the roof. At the council. At me. From down the hall, her mother's voice floated through the quiet house. "Elena, is that you?" Elena muttered under her breath and shot me a warning look. "My mother does not need surprises," she said. "I tried to keep it quiet," I said. "She has storm radar." A tiny crack showed in Elena's serious face, like a laugh was trying to push through and she was holding it back. "Get up," she said. "We are talking about boundaries." "Right after I make sure your roof does not end up in your dining room," I said. By the time we made it to the kitchen, Mrs. Sterling was already there, in a robe that somehow still looked formal. Tea kettle on, hair neat, posture straight, like the storm outside did not dare touch her. She looked from Elena to me and did not even blink. "So," she said, "you slept." "I tried the guest room," I said. "The ceiling leaked. I moved. Roof is still angry, but nobody died, and nobody should start a rumor over plumbing." Elena gave me a look that said she did not love my mouth, but it took some heat out of the air. Mrs. Sterling sipped her tea. "Good," she said. "This house needs a competent man more than it needs gossip." "Elena is competent," I said. Mrs. Sterling's eyes warmed just a little. "She is," she said. "She is also stubborn enough to argue with rain. Now go fix my roof." "Mom," Elena said. "Do not mom me," she answered. "Be grateful the storm dropped a contractor on your doorstep who actually shows up when things break." Elena's eyes slid to me. Some of the anger left her face, replaced by something closer to acceptance. "Roof first," I said. "Then the fireplace. Then the trees in the yard before they take out your fence." She gave a short, sharp nod. Decision made. That was another thing about Elena. Once she chose, she did not wobble. By mid-morning, the wind had settled a little. Still hard, but not crazy. Enough to climb if you respected it. I was on the porch with a tool belt on, boots already full of mud, when Elena stepped outside. She had changed out of the pencil skirt and heels. Now she wore jeans, an old sweatshirt, and a ponytail. In her hands she held a roll of plastic and a small bucket of nails. "You sure you know how to hold that?" I asked. Her eyes narrowed. "Are you sure you know how to climb without giving commentary?" She said. "I can do both," I said. She made a sound that might have been a laugh. She turned away before I could see it. Up on the porch roof, the rain hit my back like cold gravel. I found the weak seam near the flashing, the place where the last guy had cut corners. Rotten nail holes, cracked shingle edges. I peeled it back, cleared the mess, and started fresh. Storm work is simple. You move with purpose, or you pay for it later. Below me, Elena braced the plastic sheet against the wind. Feet planted, shoulders back, hair whipping around her face. The gusts grabbed the plastic hard, trying to rip it free, but she leaned into it and held. 2 inches left. I called. She shifted without question. "Like this?" she asked. "Perfect," I said before I could stop myself. The word came out plain, but I saw it hit her. Her face changed a little, like she was not used to hearing that kind of word when it was not about her looks or her last name. By the time I came down, I was soaked through, shirt sticking to my skin. She was just as wet, but she did not complain. She held out the nail bucket at the exact second I needed a place to drop my hammer. "Thanks," I said. "You are welcome," she answered. Her tone was crisp, but the corner of her mouth lifted a little. Inside, Mrs. Sterling watched from the window, arms crossed, like she was grading me. "Do not fall," she called through the glass. "I will try my best," I called back. "She says that to everyone," Elena said quietly at my side. "Delivery guys, mailman. My old piano teacher." "I am honored," I said. This time she did not hide her smile. The fireplace was next. The insert was old, the damper stuck, and the whole thing made a grinding sound when I tried to move it. The room smelled like wet brick and old ashes. Elena hovered nearby, arms crossed, eyes on my hands. "Is it supposed to sound like it is dying?" she asked as the metal rattled. "No," I said. "That is what happens when somebody cuts corners and never comes back to fix it." "I did not neglect it," she said quickly. "I know," I said. "I am blaming the last guy with the toolbox, not you." She let out a short laugh before she caught herself. It sounded like it surprised her as much as me. From the kitchen, Mrs. Sterling's voice carried again. "If you two are done insulting my house, I would like to keep it in one piece." "Yes, ma'am," I said. Elena shot me a glare that had no real heat in it. "Just fix it," she said, but her eyes were softer now. I cleaned the tracks, reset the pin, changed the cracked gasket, and checked the flue. When I lit a small test fire, the flame caught clean. The smoke pulled up and out the way it should. No backdraft, no coughing. The room warmed slowly. The old stone in the fireplace picked up the heat and held it. For the first time since I walked in, the house felt like it was breathing normally. "It is quiet," Elena said. "It is working," I replied. She looked at the fire, then at me. There was a different kind of look in her eyes now. Not flirty, not cold, just real respect. The kind you get when you make a problem stop being a problem. Mrs. Sterling decided hard work meant I was not allowed to leave hungry. Roast chicken, potatoes, green beans. The kind of meal that makes you feel like you landed inside a family photo. Elena set an extra place like she wanted to argue about it, but knew she would lose. "We are not paying you with food," she told me. "We are feeding him so he does not fall off my roof," her mother said. I lifted my hands. "I am very open to this safety plan," I said. Elena rolled her eyes, but there was a smile hiding in there. Halfway through dinner, as rain tapped lightly on the windows and the fire crackled in the next room, I realized something. I had come here to fix a storm problem, but the real mess was not just on the roof. It was outside this house, in a town that loved to talk, in a council meeting coming up, and in the eyes of a woman who had spent way too long standing alone. When I stood to leave, Elena walked me to the front door. "You do not have to come back tomorrow," she said. Her voice was careful, like she was offering me an out. "I am coming back," I said. "Storm damage does not fix itself." "And your roof likes me now?" She looked at the drive, where rain still ran in small rivers across the gravel. Then she looked back at me. "Fine," she said, "but next time you stay in the guest room." "Only if the ceiling behaves," I said. She almost smiled again. Neither of us knew it yet, but the biggest leak in this place was not in the roof. It was in the way people in town were already twisting what happened last night. And the next time I drove up this long, wet driveway, I would learn just how fast one night in her bed could turn into a storm all its own. By mid-morning, the storm had stopped shouting and settled into a hard, steady rain, the kind that still wrecks things, just more quietly. 2 big oak limbs were down in the driveway. Another tree hung low near the fence like it was thinking about giving up. The yard smelled like wet dirt and broken bark. I was checking the chain on my saw when the front door opened behind me. Elena stepped out in a rain jacket, jeans, and boots that were too clean for what we were about to do. In her hands, she held a thermos and a pair of work gloves. "Coffee," she said. I took a sip and almost choked. "That is strong," I said. She stared like she was ready to fight. "That is polite," I added. "It tastes like it wants to be road tar when it grows up." From the porch, Mrs. Sterling laughed. Elena shot her mother a look, then glared at me. "Fine," she said. "Next time you make it." "Deal," I said. "Mine might taste like diesel, so we will call it even." Her eyes flashed, but there was a light in them now. Less storm, more spark. I started on the first limb, cutting the weight in sections so nothing rolled where it should not. The saw buzzed through wet wood, and water soaked my sleeves. Elena watched for a minute, then stepped in without me asking, looping a rope around one heavy piece and pulling when I signaled. She did not flinch, did not complain. She just moved when it mattered. When the last piece slid out of the drive, she straightened, breathing hard, cheeks flushed from the cold. "You do not waste motion," she said. "Storms do not care if you are tired," I answered. Her gaze held mine a second longer than it needed to before she looked away. That was when I saw him. Near the gate, half hidden by the hedge, a guy in a hooded jacket stood with his phone up, aimed straight at the house, at us. As soon as he realized I was looking back, he jerked the phone down and turned away, disappearing into the thin rain. Elena followed my line of sight. "Who was that?" she asked. "Someone who likes cheap headlines," I said, "or someone paid to collect them." Her jaw set like concrete. "I am going to have a fence put there," she said. "One thing at a time," I replied. "Trees, then roofs, then fences, then gossip." Quote. The hardware store was busy because storms never call ahead. I grabbed more nails, flashing, and a length of pipe. The clerk, a guy the first knew from half the job sites in town, leaned over the counter with a grin that already annoyed me. "So," he said, "you slept in her bed." I stared at him. "I slept in the guest room," I said. "Then I moved because the ceiling leaked. I am fixing damage, not auditioning for a show." He shrugged like facts were boring. "Folks say the Sterling place finally hired entertainment," he said. "Picture is already up on the gossip page." I paid, took the receipt, and walked out before I did something that would give them a different kind of story. By the time I pulled back into the driveway, Elena was on the porch. Her phone was in her hand. Her mouth was tight. She held the screen out to me. There I was, standing with a saw near the downed tree. Elena, in the background in that rain jacket, turned toward me. The photo was grainy and far, but whoever posted it did not care about quality. The caption did the work. "Storm leaves Sterling heiress with contractor in bed and on site. New project or new habit." Heat crawled up the back of my neck. Not shame, anger. Elena's eyes were burning. "Marcus is going to love this," she said. "Who is Marcus?" I asked. "Town council," she said. "Developer. He thinks every piece of land should come with his name on it, and he would like Sterling attached to him in public, on paper, and probably in his head." "Then he is about to be disappointed," I said. The door opened behind her. Mrs. Sterling stepped out, calm like always. "Stop feeding it," she told her daughter. "Gossip is like mold. It grows in dark, damp corners. Facts are sunlight." "This could cost us the vote next week," Elena said. "Then we take our facts to the people voting," Mrs. Sterling said, "not to the ones playing with their phones." Elena's shoulders dropped a fraction. I could almost see her remembering she did not actually have to fight alone. "I need more supplies," I said. "I can go alone if you want to avoid the stairs." She straightened. "We are not hiding," she said. "If they want to look, they can look." So we went together. My truck always felt loud in town, even with the engine running smooth. At each light, I could feel eyes on us. People glanced, then looked away fast. A couple of teenagers actually pointed until Elena looked back at them. Then they suddenly cared a lot about a crack in the sidewalk. We stopped at the diner because Mrs. Sterling said if I worked through lunch again, she would throw a roll at my head. Inside, everything smelled like coffee and pancakes. The hostess hesitated when she saw Elena, then pasted on a bright smile and led us to a booth by the window. Elena sat with her back straight, shoulders squared, hands loose around her mug, like she was at a meeting, not in the center of a storm that had nothing to do with weather. That was when Marcus walked in. I knew it was him before she said his name, the kind of guy who makes a point of being seen. Nice coat, perfect hair, fake easy smile. He shook hands with two council guys at the counter, laughed too loud, then finally moved toward us. "Elena," he said, "you have been hard to reach." "Busy fixing storm damage, Marcus," she said, voice flat and polite. "Some of us work when the weather hits." His eyes slid to me. He took in my worn jacket, the dirt on my boots, the calluses on my hands. "Boone, right?" he said. "Contractor." "That is me," I said. "Town is worried," he said to Elena. "People are talking." "The town can find a hobby," she replied. He leaned in a little, like we were sharing a secret. "You do not have to prove anything to anyone by keeping him close," he said. "People might think you are mixing business and personal in risky ways." The table nearest us went quiet. I set my fork down. "Say what you mean," I said. Marcus smiled like he thought he had the upper hand. "I mean you are a contractor," he said. "She is Sterling. Do not confuse proximity with access." I looked at him the way I looked at a cracked beam, trying to decide where to cut to make it safe. "You keep circling her like she is a permit you can buy," I said. "You are not protecting her. You are marketing yourself." Color climbed up his neck. The council guys at the counter pretended not to listen harder. Elena lifted her mug and took a slow sip. When she set it down, her voice was calm. "If you are done performing, Marcus," she said, "I have actual work to do." He straightened. "I will see you at the meeting," he said. "Public trust matters." "Then bring facts," she said, "not shadows." When he left, the air eased like someone opened a window. "You did not have to say anything," she said. "I was not going to sit while he talked about you like you were a zoning code," I said. Her mouth twitched. On the way back, we had to detour by Miller Road. A big pine had gone down across both lanes. A small sedan sat stuck on one side, hazard lights blinking. A man stood in the rain holding his jacket over a little kid's head, trying to shield them. Elena looked at me once. I nodded. I parked at the edge, grabbed the saw, and walked toward the tree without ceremony. While I checked the weight and picked my cuts, Elena moved just as quickly in a different way. She talked to the man, calmed the kid, and then started waving cars around in a slow, safe pattern that kept everybody from doing something dumb. When the main trunk finally split and the heavy sections rolled off to the side, the father's shoulders dropped like a load had just been taken off them. "Thank you," he said to both of us. "I did not know what we were going to do." "Get home dry," I said. "Next time, check the weather." He laughed, shaky but real, and drove through the new gap. Elena watched the car disappear, then looked at me. "The town can say what it wants," she said. "I saw what you did." "Same," I answered. By the time we pulled back into the Sterling driveway, the clouds were lighter. The house stood the same way it always had, big and solid. The roof did not. When I checked the seam I had patched that morning, my stomach went cold. The new nails were bent wrong. The edge of the shingle had fresh scrape marks. Someone had lifted it and shoved it back badly. This was not weather. I felt Elena step up beside me. "How bad is it?" she asked. "It is not the storm," I said. "Someone was up here after me." Her face went still. "Marcus," she said. "I do not know who," I said, "but I know what it is." "What?" she asked. "Pressure," I said. "And it means this is not just about gossip anymore." Her jaw set. "Then tell me what you need," she said. "Because whoever thinks they can scare me out of my own house just started a different kind of fight." And for the first time I heard it in her voice, not just anger. "Trust." I took pictures of the bent nails and the scrape marks on the roof before I fixed them. Rain slid off the eaves in a steady sheet while I worked the seam again, this time deeper, stronger, tying it into the underlayment so it would take more than one angry hand to break it. Below me, Elena stood on the porch with her arms folded, face tight, watching the yard like she expected someone to step out from behind the trees. "This is not just about you," I called down. "It is about them wanting you scared." "I am already tired," she said. "Scared is not on the list." Quote. When I came down, she was waiting with a towel and a flashlight. "What now?" she asked. "Now we stop being surprised." I said, "Do you have motion lights in the garage?" She blinked. "You carry those in your truck?" she asked. "I carry a lot of things," I said. "Storms and people like to hit from the dark. Lights make both less brave." We spent the next hour installing 2 motion lights at the gate and 1 near the side door next to the utility room. I drilled, she held the ladder, and steadied the fixtures, never once acting like the work was beneath her. When it pops on, I told her, anyone who thinks they can creep in is going to feel like they are on stage. Good, she said. Let them feel it. That night the house was quiet in the way old houses are. A few creaks, wind in the trees. The soft hum of the furnace that I had already checked twice. Mrs. Sterling went to bed early. She trusted the system more than she trusted the town. Elena sat at the kitchen table with papers spread in front of her. Council agenda. Budget lines. Notes in sharp, dark ink. You should sleep, I said. You should, she replied. I will, I said, after I check the boiler again. She stood up. I am coming, she said. You do not have to, I told her. I am not letting you handle this alone, she said, not when the last person who touched my roof did not work for us. We went down to the utility room together. The air was cooler there, smelling like metal and dust. I opened the boiler panel. See this, I said, pointing at the valve. Someone turned this earlier just enough to starve the line. If they had waited a day to do it, you would have thought the furnace just died. Her mouth tightened. You are sure? She asked. Positive, I said. The dust ring on the pipe is clean where the hand moved it. Weather does not do that. People do. Fix it, she said. Yes, ma'am, I said, on purpose. Her eyes cut to mine, annoyed, but there was a faint light there, too. I turned the valve back to where it belonged and added a new, simple lock. Nothing fancy, but enough to show if someone tried to mess with it again. Then I took another photo. You are really going to the sheriff, she said. That is what he is there for, I answered. If this was one mistake, that would be different. Roof, furnace, kid at the gate with a phone, that is a pattern. We came back up to the kitchen. The house felt different now, not weaker, more awake. Elena looked at the clock. It is late, she said. You should head home. I glanced at the front window. Rain had started again, harder this time. The driveway was a dark river under the porch light. You told me not to drive in a storm, I said. That was last night, she answered. The road did not get wider overnight, I said. I will take the couch. The guest room is not on my list until that ceiling is dry. She stared at me for a long second, eyes serious and searching. You do not listen very well, she said. Not to people who want to scare you, I said. To you, I listen fine. She blew out a breath. Fine, she said. You stay. Couch. And doors are locked. Yes, boss, I said. She pointed a finger at me. Do not call me that, she said. It sounds like you work for me. Quote. I met her eyes. I work with you, I said. There is a difference. Her mouth softened. Yeah, she said quietly. There is. The couch was not as comfortable as her bed, but I was not planning on sleeping much anyway. I lay there in the dark, listening to the rain in the house, thinking about the kid at the gate and the way Marcus had smiled in the diner. At some point, I drifted off. The motion light at the gate snapped on with a sharp click and a wash of white across the front curtains. I was up before my eyes were fully open, boots in my hand, heart already running. By the time I hit the hallway, Elena was there too, in bare feet and a long t-shirt, phone in her hand, jaw set. We met at the front door without needing words. She unlocked it, and we stepped onto the porch together. The yard lit up in hard white light from the gate. A shape moved near the side of the house by the utility door. Small, hunched, trying to hurry. Hey, I called, voice low but firm. Stop. The figure froze, then bolted toward the hedge. I took the steps 2 at a time and ran down the gravel, cutting across the wet grass. I did not tackle him. I just moved fast enough to get in front of him and then planted my boots. He skidded to a stop. He was younger than I expected. Maybe 17. Hoodie soaked, shoes covered in mud. His eyes jumped from my face to the house to the road, like he was looking for an exit that was not there. Elena stayed on the porch steps. Close enough to see, far enough to stay safe. Her posture was straight. No flinch. Why are you here? She called. The kid swallowed. I was told to check the door, he said. By who? I asked. He clenched his jaw and shook his head. I took my phone out, raised it so he could see the camera light. Then you can tell the sheriff, I said. Because you were on video under a motion light on private property after midnight. Panic flashed across his face. It was just a job, he said. They said just jiggle the knob and take a picture. Who is they? Elena asked again. He looked at her like maybe it expected the rich woman in the big house to be softer somewhere. She was not. Her eyes were sharp and clear. Leave, she said. Right now. But know this. Next time the sheriff will be waiting. The kid hesitated one heartbeat, then ran. Down the drive, past the gate, out into the dark road. We stood there in the white light, watching him go. That was not random, she said. No, I said. That was someone testing how far they could push. She wrapped her arms around herself for a second, not from cold, from anger. This is my home, she said. My mother's home. I will not be chased out by fake stories and cheap tricks. You will not be, I said. Not while I am standing here. Her eyes met mine. Something in them eased. Come inside, she said, before my mother wakes up and finds you doing security under her robe. Too late. The front curtain moved, and Mrs. Sterling appeared at the window with her arms crossed. If you two are going to chase kids in the yard at midnight, she said as we came in, make sure none of you die. I just got the roof to stop crying. Yes, ma'am, I said. She gave me a look that was stern and fond at the same time, then turned to her daughter. Call the sheriff in the morning, she said. Have him bring extra forms. Men like Marcus hate paperwork. The next day we did just that. The sheriff came out, listened to the story, took my photos, and did not roll his eyes once at the word gossip. Roof tampered, furnace valve turned, kid at the door, fire risk goes up, he said, making notes. This is more than talk. If I can tie any of it to someone, they will have a real problem. Can you tie it? Elena asked. Not yet, he said, but people who play with matches get careless. They always do. When he left, Elena looked at the stack of reports on the table. Council agenda, sheriff forms, photos. You still coming to the meeting? She asked. Yes, I said. You need someone there who can keep his mouth shut until it matters and then say the right thing. And that is you? She asked. Today it is, I said. Her eyes softened. Then I guess I am glad you stayed, she said, even if you do keep ending up in places you should not, like my bed and my boiler room. You told me not to drive home in the storm, I said. I am just following orders. She shook her head, but there was a smile she could not hide now. The council is going to be a bigger storm than any of this, she said. Good, I said. I already know where the leaks are. She picked up her coat, squared her shoulders, and nodded toward the door. Then let us go see if the town wants facts, she said. Or just more pictures. We walked out together, side by side, into a gray morning that felt like it was holding its breath. The fire hit the night before the council meeting. I was in the warehouse corner of the garage, sorting tools into labeled bins so I would not waste time hunting them later, when I smelled it. Sharp and chemical under the usual oil and dust. Burning. I dropped the wrench and ran for the back door. Elena was already in the hallway, phone in her hand, eyes wide but not panicked. You smell that? She asked. Yeah, I said. Stay inside. Call 911. Quote. I hit the porch and saw it. A stack of old pallets shoved against the side fence by the trees, flames licking up the dry wood. The fire was still small, but it was close enough that if the wind shifted, the fence and the branches would go up like matches. I grabbed the hose, twisted the valve open hard, and ran the stream straight at the base of the flames. It hissed and spit as the water hit. Smoke rose thick and gray. Fire department is on the way, Elena called from the porch, voice steady. They said keep distance if it spreads. It is not spreading, I said, more to myself than to her. I soaked the pallets until they were nothing but blackened, soggy boards. Then I pulled them apart with my boot and soaked them again. When I was sure the last ember was dead, I shut off the hose. Elena came down the steps slowly, eyes on me. Are you burned? She asked. I am fine, I said. Just wet again. Her hand lifted, hesitated, then rested on my forearm. Simple, light contact. It steadied something in both of us. "This is not kids playing," she said. "No," I said. "This is someone testing how far they can push you before you back down." She looked at the charred wood and then at the motion light glowing over the gate. "We are not backing down," she said. "Good," I said, "because I am not going anywhere." The fire chief and the sheriff both came. The chief checked the fence. The sheriff took more photos and shook his head. "Someone wanted a scare," he said. "They got themselves a report instead." "Can you charge anyone?" Elena asked. "Not yet," he said. "But this, on top of the other things, paints a picture. Bring your paperwork tomorrow. Let the council see who is being responsible." The next evening, town hall smelled like old carpet and coffee. The room was packed. People filled the wooden benches, some there for real reasons, some just to see if anything exploded. Marcus sat near the front, suit perfect, expression smooth. He did not look at us right away. He did not have to. Half the room watched him watch us. Elena sat at the long table with the other speakers. She wore a dark blazer and a simple blouse. No jewelry. No visible nerves. Her notes were in a neat stack in front of her. Reports, photos, invoices. I stood against the side wall with the contractors, hands in my pockets, feeling the weight of every eye that jumped from her to me and back again. The chair cleared his throat and called the room to order. "First item," he said, "storm damage reports, sterling property, and proposed repairs and leases. Council member Marcus has concerns he wishes to put on record." Marcus walked to the front like he was stepping onto a stage. "Storms reveal weak places," he said. "In roofs, in roads, in leadership. The public deserves to know that contracts are awarded fairly, without special treatment, and that personal relationships are not clouding professional decisions." He never said my name. He did not have to. People shifted. A few phones lit up under the benches. When he sat, the chair nodded to Elena. "Miss Sterling," he said, "your response." Elena stood. If she was nervous, I could not see it. Her shoulders were straight, her voice clear. "I agree with Marcus on one point," she said. "The public deserves facts, so I brought them." She laid out a stack of folders and slid them to the edge of the table for the clerk to distribute to the council. "Those are copies of every bid for our storm repairs," she said. "Dates, amounts, and signatures. Boone Carter's contract is market rate and was reviewed by council staff before approval. You will also find inspection reports, photos of the tampered roof seam, the turned furnace valve, the attempted fire at our gate, and the sheriff's incident numbers for each." The room rustled. "Someone is playing games with our home and our safety," she went on. "It is not us." One council member cleared his throat. "Is there a personal relationship between you and Mr. Carter that influenced his hire?" he asked, blunt. Elena looked him straight in the eye. "He was hired because he is competent and shows up when it matters," she said. "That is the relationship that concerns this council." Marcus leaned toward his mic. "Rumors are quite loud," he said. "Rumors are not evidence," Elena replied. "If anyone has real proof of wrongdoing, they can present it. Otherwise, we should be talking about drainage and funding, not gossip." The chair glanced toward the back of the room. "Mr. Carter," he said, "since your name keeps drifting around the edges, do you have anything to add?" I walked to the front. My boots sounded too loud on the old floor. "Boone Carter," I said. "Contractor." I kept my hands loose at my sides and my voice level. "I do not work for free," I said. "I do not take payment in favors or rumors. I signed a contract at a fair rate. I patched a roof that someone else later pried up. I relit a furnace that someone tried to shut off. I put out a fire that someone started against a family's fence." I looked at Marcus. "I am not guessing," I said. "I am telling you what I saw with my own eyes and what the sheriff has on file." A quiet settled over the room that felt heavier than the whispers. "If the issue here is public trust," I went on, "then that trust should be built on actual work done and actual bills paid, not on who hates who this week." The chair nodded slowly. "Thank you," he said. "They argued some because councils always do. Numbers, budgets, timelines. In the end, the votes were not perfect, but they were enough. Funding for Sterling storm repairs passed. The motion to block my contract failed. The lease for the old South Lot warehouse to be converted into a workshop passed at market rate. When the gavel came down, the noise in the room rose fast. Marcus's smile was tight now, not smooth. He came over anyway. "Enjoy your warehouse," he said. "Storm season comes every year." "If it floods," I said, "I will fix it." Elena stepped up beside me and looked Marcus dead in the eye. "And if anyone sets one more fire near my home," she said quietly, "I will make sure the sheriff has your name on his desk the next morning." He scoffed, but I saw the twitch in his jaw before he walked away. Outside, the air felt cleaner than it had in days. The sky was heavy, but the clouds were holding back for now. At the truck, Elena let out a long breath and leaned her hip against the door. "You did not have to speak," she said. "I was not going to let you stand up there alone," I said. Her eyes warmed. "I did not feel alone," she said. The warehouse on the South Lot was ugly and perfect. Corrugated metal, concrete floor, old oil stains, a little water damage around one drain. It smelled like potential and bad decisions from 10 years ago. Elena met me there the next afternoon with a folder in her hand and keys. "You are paying rent," she said. "Market rate, no discount, no favors." "I already signed," I said, taking the keys. "Good," she replied. "Now no one can say you are getting anything you did not earn." Mrs. Sterling showed up 10 minutes later with a casserole dish. "This is not payment," she said as she handed it to me. "This is gratitude. Payment is on paper. Gratitude is food." "Understood," I said. "I will cash both." Elena rolled her eyes, but there was a smile she did not try to hide now. That night, I stayed late at the warehouse, building shelves and setting up a real workbench. Rain started again, light at first, then harder. It drummed on the metal roof in a steady rhythm. The big door was half open when Elena walked in. She wore jeans and an old college sweatshirt, hair pulled up, no makeup. For the first time since I met her, she looked like she had stepped out of her life and into herself. "It already feels different in here," she said. "Because it has a purpose," I said. She looked around at the sorted bins, the humming small heater, the swept floor. I did not realize how much of my day was smiling at people who wanted a piece of something, she said. "Here, nobody wants anything from me." "I do," I said. She turned her head quickly. "What?" she asked. "I want you to be able to walk in and breathe," I said. "That is all." Her shoulders dropped, like some invisible weight slid off. She stepped closer, fingers brushing dust off the front of my shirt. "You did that," she said. "For the record," I said, "you told me to stay. I was just following orders." She laughed, real and easy, and the sound filled the warehouse better than any radio. Then she put her hand flat on my chest, right over my heartbeat, and rose on her toes. There was no pause, no question. She knew exactly what she was doing. She kissed me. It was not dramatic, not a movie scene. Just warm and sure, her fingers curling in my shirt, pulling me closer like she had already made this decision days ago and was finally letting it out. I slid one hand to her waist and held her there, careful and steady, not dragging her, not trapping her, just meeting her halfway. When we broke apart, she stayed close, breathing slow in the quiet. "The town is still going to talk," she said softly. "Let them," I said. "They can talk while we fix roofs." She smiled against my chest. Later, when the rain picked up and the road outside started to shine dark and slick, she glanced at the big door. "You should head home before it gets worse," she said. We stepped out into the yard. The sky was a solid sheet of gray, rain coming hard now. The driveway back to the main house already had small rivers cutting across it. "You know I have seen this movie," I said. "The one where the idiot drives home in a storm and ends up in a ditch." Quote. She looked at the water, then at me. I saw the moment she decided. "Fine," she said. "You stay, couch again, or the guest room, now that the ceiling is fixed." We made it back to the house soaked. Mrs. Sterling was in the living room this time, watching the weather report. "Storm warning," she said. "You are both staying. I am not fishing anyone out of a gully tonight." "Yes, ma'am," I said. Hours later, sometime after midnight, the wind rattled the windows and the rain hit harder. It sounded worse than the first night. I woke to a soft voice and warm lamplight. The bedside lamp, not the couch lamp. I blinked and realized where I was. Her room again. Same carved headboard. Same window with rain sliding down the glass. Same sheets that were way too soft for a guy like me. Elena stood at the edge of the bed in an oversized t-shirt and leggings, hair loose around her shoulders, hands on her hips, but her eyes were not angry now. They were curious and a little amused. "Boone," she said, same slow start as the first time, "why are you in my bed?" I pushed myself up on my elbows. The couch cushion imprint was still on my cheek. "I must have drifted in here after checking the windows when she called my name and I followed without thinking. Because you told me not to drive home in the storm," I said, "and because this time you came and got me." Her mouth tugged up at one corner. "I did," she said. She sat on the edge of the mattress. The rain was louder now, but the room felt safe. "Somewhere out there, they are still talking," she said quietly. "Somewhere in here, you chose," I said. "That is the only part that matters to me." Her hand found mine on the blanket, fingers threading through, warm and sure. "I am done letting them write the story," she said. "Good," I said, "because I like ours better." She leaned in, kissed me once, soft and certain, then turned off the lamp. The storm kept beating on the glass. For the first time since it all began, it sounded less like a threat and more like a soundtrack to something solid. She had asked why I was in her bed. The answer was simple. Because she told me not to drive home in the storm, and because now she wanted me there.